I'm not going to insult you people by pretending you don't know who Katie Smith is. Joining us now, Locked On Women's Basketball starts now.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Tuesday to you and welcome to Locked On Women's Basketball. I'm your host, Howard Megdal, and I want to thank you for making us your first listen every day. You keep showing up for us, over 300,000 of you listening in October 2024 alone, a new record for us that I expect us to break in November because we keep on going up, showing up the way we show up for you 6 days a week. Of course, it is not just me, it is the incredible team across the board over at The Next, thenexthoops.com, where we have over 100 reported pieces every single month on the past, present, future of women's basketball. $9 a month, $72 a year. Support the work, thenexthoops.com. And past, present, future of women's basketball. Well, that sounds a lot like my guest today, the great Katie Smith, who I've had the honor and pleasure of covering in numerous different roles. Now a new role, working at Ohio State, the Ohio State University, I should say. Let's just be clear about it. A place where, and I do just have to point this out, where when the Final Four was in Columbus, you were the password for the Wi-Fi. That's how central you are to that program, to that town, to that place. Katie, welcome to the show. What's been your favorite hello and come back and, reuniting here?
It's been a whirlwind. Part of it was telling my family, my mom and dad. My mom was pretty pumped up. Some of my Logan folks, and then a lot of the alum, and then the fans that have been here when I was here and prior to me, and now continuing to watch the program now. So just lots of, from the institution, from outside, from my personal. It's wild, you know what I mean? A lot of people I've been waiting for this my whole, so it's a lot of fun, and it feels good, and it's nice to be home.
It's been something of a consistent theme that we've seen over the past 5, 10 years, I would say, where people who are central to programs are returning. Sometimes it's immediately after their playing days, as J.C. Sheldon, for instance, was of course on staff with you guys as well. We saw Maddie Segrist, of course, in Villanova. I wonder, just from a perspective of the infrastructure being bigger, that there are more coaches, there are more coaching opportunities, how much you feel like this is the world of women's basketball kind of expanded, which is something we're going to talk about in segment 3 as well, about it writ large. But just from that perspective, does it change, you think, the way in which not just players who are just starting their time in the league, but, people who are deep into their coaching careers like you are able to think about what's ahead?
Yeah, I think it's great. I think the extra positions, the roles, like you can kind of create whatever you need and however many staff that you want, within your budget, your salaries. I think for the players, that are still playing, it's a great way for them to make a little money, continue to make an impact on the program. Like the players that are playing now, at Ohio State know JC. They played with her and or watched her, and they have that really close connection. And she's in the W and doing something that they obviously a lot of them aspire to. So, having that positivity and having that kind of connection of just leaving college is great for them to have that. For me, I think you can. There's just different roles. There's a lot of community involvement. There's some like not salary cap kind of stuff coming, but it's going to be not pro like, but there is some pro components to this. Without all the rules and things, ultimately who knows where it'll end. But that philosophy, like the way my brain works and the way you kind of put together a team, can be maybe beneficial to share with Coach McGuff and the staff. But I just think it's also timing. For all of us, it's timing in life. It's timing, where you're at, and that has a lot to do with it. Coaching is hard in general, just because it's you don't pick the job you want. You don't get to say, "I want that job. I'm going to get it on this year." and at this time. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, all these coaches, like, it's really on a whim. Opportunities happen. You up and leave. For me, I think we've always talked, and most people that know me, I'm not big on chasing any job. I
Mhm.
have, you know, a couple locations I've always wanted to kind of end up in. I mean, Minnie's kind of like a second home. And then, Columbus, that's where my house has been. That's where my parents are. That's where my wife and kid, this has been home. So ultimately this was, somewhere that I was at some point I was, hoping to get back to, and timing, thankful and grateful for McGuff to, give me an opportunity to come back and, be a part of this with the whole staff.
And we've had Coach McGuff on the program. I'm sure we will again. And
Yeah.
there are some principles, some overlapping principles with the way in which I know you think about, especially in the offensive end, where it makes a lot of sense from a strategic perspective. I did wonder, though, in terms of you coming back to this program now, right? These players have played with JC, a lot of them,
Uh-huh,
right?
uh-huh.
I it's not really a polite way to say this, but you didn't overlap with anyone who's
No.
playing right now on the program. Like,
Uh,
how familiar are they? Like,
um,
is there an understanding of, like, how great you were, like the extent to which you
it's
brought it?
fun, like, honestly, and even in the W to an extent, there's some that do know, and then others that no clue. Like Courtney, I used to harass her, all the time, and she never knew. No, I joke with JC. I'm like, JC, the youngsters love you. I get the parents. The parents are mine. You know what I mean? They know me. So there's a total just they're like, who is this lady? But then the other day they were like, you know what? Everywhere I go, I see a picture of you now. So they finally are like, oh, that's you. You know what I mean? And it's so, but yeah, I'm not relevant to any of them. The only relevance I have to them is, yes, I coached in the W and now I'm coaching them. It doesn't,
Fair.
there's, again, as we go and you have these conversations, and, they'll learn little things, but I am not part of their world at all when it comes to playing and knowing. And that's just the way it is. Like, none of these guys, you're like a name that's like, oh, I heard that name, or I've seen a picture, but which is kind of funny. So I joke with JC. She's the cool kid. I'm the parents cool.
That is,
I'm the one that gets the older folks get me.
I maybe tell them to Google Detroit
Well, they
Shock,
do.
or,
They get curious. They'll
there's
go
YouTube,
Google something.
you
Yeah, they've seen you again. They'll once it piques their interest and like, oh, then maybe they'll search and then they have an idea. But again, it's it's not relevant to their world outside of me being their coach right now.
That is fair. I can't really emotionally accept it, but I
I
think
know,
that
I
is
understand. It is
I
reality.
it's relevant to me. So
Yeah,
let's talk about the parents real quick,
yeah.
before we get to our first break, which is you come back, you're announced as part of the staff. What is that moment like to be in that building? What was going through your mind as
Yeah.
you were sort of back home?
I mean, it's a little bittersweet, but I was pumped. Like my wife, during the summer, I've been together 6 years now, and I
Yeah,
leave for 6, 7 months, and I pack up and go. And
yeah,
she's a teacher. Kids are in school. July and June and July, I get to see her whenever I could, and it was
right.
probably a month out of 6 months. Not that's not. I mean, it's awesome. She's been great. My parents, I don't see them. I might see them. Olympic break's easier. I get to see them for a couple days. Outside of that, I might have seen them once, maybe not at all in 6 months. So it's just the excitement of having me, around and on a day to day or going on a trip and coming home. So that stuff was pretty happy about that, of just like having me around, being able to kind of be a part of it a little bit. But yeah, so they were pumped, pretty excited about that. Both, my wife and kiddos, and my parents. But also bittersweet because again, we love Minnesota. Like, I mean,
Sure.
everybody was in my wedding, you know what I mean, a year ago. Like,
Yeah.
just we've had some great lasting friendships, and we'll continue. So nothing ever separates. I'll be the biggest Minnesota Lynx fan, from afar.
Understood
Yeah,
completely. And we'll talk about the Lynx in
yeah,
segment two, and just about that experience and sort
yeah,
of where it is, put your career as well. It's really
Yeah.
an interesting time for sure. Lots more to come with the great Katie Smith. I'm Howard Megdal. You're listening to Locked On Women's Basketball. But first, Locked On Women's Basketball is brought to you by PrizePicks. And PrizePicks is the best place to go and play daily fantasy sports. You just can pick more or less on at least two players and turn around, you can win up to 100 times your cash. Apparently, there is this league called the NBA. It's a professional basketball league for men, and apparently getting some pickups from different places. So the NBA offers you the opportunity to, in over 30 states, get daily fantasy action on sports. Now, if you sign up today, you can get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to get the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. So you can pick like Philadelphia 76ers players, for instance, and it won't even matter. So go download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Back here in segment 2 with Katie Smith. Yeah, the NBA. I know. Interesting.
I loved it. I liked it.
No, it's a, as I say so often, it is a perfectly fine way to spend your time in between women's basketball games, right? So while you're waiting for the next one. Absolutely. We love it. So back here talking about Minnesota and the Timberwolves apparently also in that market, but obviously focus on the Lynx, the team that wins. And so when we think about the Minnesota Lynx and the season that you guys had all together, was there a moment early on that you realized this was a team that was potentially going all the way to the finals, and again played incredibly close finals that simply could have gone either way?
I don't think we thought finals. That was not my. Did we know we put a group together that fit, like connected, added some pieces that we knew we needed. Courtney's playmaking, Land being able to stretch the floor and be a play. I mean, her defense was incredible. K-Mac at BC. Fee just being Fee. So, and then everybody, Chechi, like we had this group that just felt it showed up every day. It was just, you can have, it's just there's a feeling to it. You can't always, pinpoint what it is, but everybody just was completely locked in. We had some focuses, during the off season. We wanted to be better at defense. We wanted to make sure that was one of our staples. Obviously, I thought, the pieces that, Reeve and Claire brought in, that we came with that helped us offensively. And then they just from day one, every game just battled and continued to kind of just put in the work and listen to everything that we were trying to get them to do, and little things and reminders, and just every day just kind of, why not? And we just did it our own way. It wasn't always blowing people out of the water. Sometimes when you looked at us at the jump ball, you're like, oh my gosh, we're so small. Like Fees, you're 4 at 6'1". I mean, Land's only 6'3", but some teams were towering. And we just battled. And so it was just it was such a fun group. And as I said, they just truly tried to do everything you asked of them, and tried to execute all of it. And they were just, every time you walked in the gym, you're just happy to be with them and, go out there and play. And ultimately ended up, literally a play or two would have gone the other way and would have been crazy. Wanted it so bad for them, because, all of us, and even them, they know just how hard it is to actually get there, let alone win it. And to have those opportunities was definitely hurt, but wouldn't done it with anybody else because they literally were the best staff, players. It was so much fun.
There's so many happy personalities in that group. And as you know, the grind of a WNBA season is such a challenge. And I wonder how much you think having, the joy of a Courtney Williams on a daily basis, the joy of a Bridget Carlton It's easy, and I'm guilty of it, of getting caught up in the numbers and who's doing what, and but how much do you think that and fee setting the tone in that way helps overcome a difference, like you said, in height, in wingspan, you name it, that certainly brought you guys. I mean, I guess you can't get fined if you talk about the officiating now at this point. My personal perspective, and I've put it on this show before, is to say that it did not strike me as, officiating biased against one side or in favor of the other. It's more like there's so many missed calls all the time, and it's almost like sporadic violence, and it's going to show up in some way and somewhere. And in this case, that's where it did, but from that perspective, that's another thing to overcome. How much was that? How much was that personality driven?
It was. So and I think it was intentional. Like, I just think Reeve is so intentional in all things, like both creating teams and personalities and skill set, and then intentional every day we meet in our huddle. It's not just she comes out and just says whatever's on her mind. She's thought about it and what needs to be said at that moment. And the reminders and the things that are going to make us special. And we did talk about it, that it is a grind. It does get tiresome, but being sharp, picking each other up, giving to each other, staying connected when things aren't going well. It's worth points in the game. So all of it. But Courtney's personality, we had a lot of great people. Like BC is amazing. Lan, Dorka, like Diamond. You have all these amazing like humans, but Mike needed just a little more oomph, like a little something. And Courtney was that person, and it was in such a positive way, and like giving all the time, and a little bit of the talking and the constant banter and fun and laughter, but didn't take anything too serious. Like, it was also, was able to handle her business but show up. And then at the end of the day, Fee is our rock. Fee is one of the funniest people you'll ever be around, and such a connector. Doesn't get too high, too low. You can yell at her, she'll be the same as if you're cheering for her. She could be missing every shot or making every shot. She's gonna play as hard. So you have your anchor, who's truly just a gift to be around. And then you have Courtney, who really gave us a jolt. And then came back BC. This if Lan is goofy and awesome, and they just all came together and needed Court to kind of be their kind of leader, maybe. But Fee's our anchor, because she handles it all, like anything you bring her way. And as I said, one of the funniest, sweetest people you'll be around, and she's your best player.
And finally, I feel like the gap is erased between what Fee is as a player and what Fee is being talked about as. And frankly, this dates back to her college days. The idea that she was the sixth pick, I remember writing about this at the time, because she's such a constant. I feel like the constant players get overlooked sometimes. But to your point, the biggest thing for me, and I mean this not in any sort of disrespect for Courtney Williams, but it's shocking that she was able to turn herself into a top, and you can fill in the number, but it's almost, there's no wrong number, top 3, top 4, top 2 point guard in the league, to do it at this time. It's Phoenix in her rookie year dealt her after deciding, hey, we don't think she can play the point. And now she was able to be the point guard for a team that made it all the way to Game 5 of the WNBA Finals.
Yeah, it's special. Again, it says a lot about them. Like, it says a lot about Court as a basketball player, her willingness to embrace that role, to take whatever we're telling her to try. And you're our leader. We go as you go. Like, when to score, when to play make, when and then challenging her to guards, somebody a little bit more. And so she just, like, she embraced it all. And it was just, as I said, it's a testament. They're skilled. They bring this skill set, but they also allow us to demand and to ask them for these things. And that's, as I said, I think from top to bottom, 1 to 12, they all did that. Like, anything you ask them, they truly tried to do it and did it together, which is any championship team, and anybody has had success, those teams, that's what they are. When they are selfless, they truly didn't care who scored 20, 30, 50, but they were big shots. Whoever got the shot, could not care less. It truly celebrated each other. So just as I said, they chose that every single day, and it wasn't every single day. It wasn't every day is not a fun day. Every day is
Right.
not amazing for them to show up, and but they did, and mentally and physically kind of gave to each other and always stayed together, which ultimately led to a really special season, for all of us. So
They were a delight to cover. It had to be
yeah,
a delight to be inside that locker
right.
room. Again, sort of last thing before we get to break is, so for me, the two biggest and most impressive mid-career reinventions are Courtney Williams becoming a point guard at this point in her league and in her time in the league, and Rebecca Brunson, who you have some familiarity with, of course, as a fellow member of the staff, becoming a stretch big midway through her second decade in the league. So I have to note that both of these things happened with the Minnesota Lynx. There's the head coach over there, Cheryl Reeve, I think up and coming, right? Somebody who I think is starting to make a name for herself. No, I mean, joking aside, I had so many conversations this year where people are like, how is this possible? What is happening? And I'm just like, how do we not notice
I
that it's
know.
the same person doing this who won 4 championships already? Do you think maybe we talked about, fees, the gap between fees rep and what fee is doing has, I think, largely disappeared, and maybe Unrivaled helps with that. Do you think people will just stop doubting Cheryl Reeve? Because why would you doubt Cheryl Reeve?
I think, I mean, I've always said, I think she's the best in the business. Like, and not only X's and O's and in game, like the feel or ATOs,
Mm-hmm.
like all the things, but the prep, the work, the the sleepless nights, the analytics, the intentional conversations, the direct conversations, the all the things, the business, like it's so impressive to see. And again, it's the thoughtfulness prior to bringing anybody in, and it was awesome to be a part of that in the
Mm-hmm.
conversations on what are the all the people you talk to. It wasn't just one person. It was like so. It's again being around it. It was it elevates everyone, and that's her job, and she wants to elevate all of us and mentor and make sure that she's challenging us to continue to get better and go wherever we want to go and allow us to do that. And she did that as for the players. Obviously BB, she was just such a mainstay and a rock for those championship teams with all that talent, but she played a huge role within
Yeah.
all of that. And obviously Courtney. So I don't know, but I think Cheryl Reeves could coach any team anywhere and win championships and be in the mix and constantly create winners. So I'm always impressed and with the work. And then the friendship, the loyalty, we're all buddies. That's the crazy part about our staff is all three of us played under her. She was my an assistant coach for EP, and I obviously a head coach for BB. But it's
Yeah.
like she's known you in your best and worst moments as being a little bit of a younger whippersnapper, probably not always good. You know what I mean? Like
I
so,
do.
which makes every day amazing. When we go to work, I joke all the time. We have like an hour and a half meeting before we practice. We probably
Yeah.
spend a half hour of it just talking about who knows what is going on in the world and in basketball. So she's top notch. She's the best in the business, and lucky to be under her because I feel even like obviously got my job. Head coach had the experience. I learned a bunch from that experience. But going forward now,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like even more prepared to do anything in any role, however it is.
I'm
So yeah,
excited. I'm excited to hear where and how that goes. So we're going to be back just to talk about that because there's a conversation I want to talk to you a little bit about off the air before we started, and that I want to go back to because things are different in some really wonderful ways. So back with Katie Smith, I'm Howard Megdal. You're listening to Locked On Women's Basketball. Locked On Women's Basketball is brought to you by FanDuel. And FanDuel has a deal right now for the NFL. FanDuel is the NFL and, in fact, America's #1 sports book. So new customers, you can bet $5 and then you get $150 in bonus bets if you win. FanDuel Sportsbook app, you go on there, you can place your bets, you can check out the latest stats, view the live play-by-play, and so much more. And again, if it's $5 you win, you get $150. And I don't know if anybody's heard, but Tommy DeVito is going to be starting at quarterback for the Giants. So whoever is playing against the Giants, there's a free opportunity for you. I say that as a very bitter New York Giants fan. So yeah, again, $5, 150 bonus bets if you win. Go to FanDuel.com today and get started. Again, FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Yeah, times are tough in Giants land, Katie. I got to tell you, they are.
I'm good. I haven't watched a whole lot. I'm kind of sort of a Browns fan just because.
Yeah.
And that's not so great either.
It's not so great either. That's fair. Let's watch more women's basketball, not just because it's amazing.
That's why I don't even watch.
NFL self-preservation. Exactly right. So back to your final segment with Katie Smith. And so I remember sitting with you for a story for dearly departed Vice Sports, may it rest in peace, about the coaching opportunities for women. And we were talking at a time, it was the day that there was a former Liberty great named Becky Hammond. I don't know whatever happened to her, but she was talking about opportunities potentially in the NBA at that time. This was before the Aces were even in existence. They were still the San Antonio Stars at that point. And talking about the fact that there were places where men could coach, but we weren't seeing women get the opportunity. And it feels like now, not only has the financial parameters changed, where WNBA jobs, WNBA assistant jobs, those are different. We're seeing opportunities in the off-season leagues. We just saw 6 new coaches hired over at Unrivaled. A lot more opportunities. I just wonder, as you think through, like you said, you're not chasing any particular job at any particular time. You have been, and I've reported about this, you have been at the top of lists that people are trying to figure out their future plans about. Does it feel different to you? And do you feel like you have to be sort of more flexible about these opportunities because there are more of them?
It is great to have the opportunities and to have more of them. I think there's a need to win now because it's, you're seeing teams being able to change your roster and get to the championship quickly. So there's more money invested and there's more money put into it. So there's expectations. Now that there's more money in head coaching and assistant jobs in the W, now you're seeing a lot more maybe college and more men. Now it's kind of similar to what college basketball, when there's more money to be had, they're like, oh, I can go to the women's side. Now I do truly hope that the W and these organizations continue to be intentional about what they're doing and about hiring women and women of color, and making sure that we're not losing track of developing and or giving opportunities, even when you don't have success. I mean, it's crazy how many men can be terrible and do an awful job in coaching and continue to get jobs, where a woman may never get another job. So I just hope that is always at the center of our league and our ownership group and all the people that have teams. I do truly hope that they continue to be intentional about that. But it is open for, there's so many ways to stay involved in the game, and that's what's awesome. And you can choose at whatever point in your life and what you want to do, and maybe there's an opportunity out there to do that. So I'm pumped for it, because you do want to make sure you're getting great people that hopefully love the game and ultimately want to grow it.
You got a little ahead of my last point, and I appreciate it. So no, that's a perfect segue, which is to say something that I know Cheryl has been intentional about is giving women opportunities on her staff. For you, somebody who now has head coaching experience and has that time as well, how critical. And I asked you because I saw a recent report that said something like there's not some pipeline built for women to be head coaches, or for even WNBA head coaches. And we know too many people around this league who have put in the time, who have paid their dues, who know how this league works. How much more prepared does being on a staff like that give you an opportunity to be if and when that next opportunity comes?
I think it's given me a lot. I mean, a ton. Both the confidence in what you're doing and how to do it. There's, whenever you're with coaches here at Ohio State, and when I was under Bill, and now with Reeve, and when I got coached by Brian Agler, like you steal things and you see how things are done. But I just feel like with Reeve, it was the whole gamut, like how to run the whole show, both the basketball and staff, and how to do your job. But I also think there's a confidence too of speaking up and not demanding, but demanding in a part of it. And also like, hiring purposefully and hiring, with it's not just comfortable and just like whoever. It's really being purposeful, and then also leaving your mark and helping the person behind you or who you're trying to bring along. So I just think all those things, and it's been lucky, that's for sure.
It's been great to see.
Yeah.
It's always a delight to chat with you about it. For those of you who are looking for the clips, go to YouTube. Just Google. You got to see what Katie was as a player.
Yeah,
right. They use the Google, right? I don't know. Maybe somebody got to create a TikTok account and just show your clips of playing.
Yeah,
But Katie Smith, I appreciate you always. To our listeners, I thank you. We will be back with you tomorrow, as we are 6 days a week. Until then, I'm Howard Megdal, wishing all of you a wonderful Tuesday.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.